All right, welcome. So, if you're getting ready for your GCSEs, you know that Python is about way more than just memorizing commands. The real skill, and honestly where you'll score the big marks, is in combining all those simple techniques to solve much bigger problems. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
So, you might be wondering, how do you actually go from a simple line of code, like a print statement, to a whole working application? Well, the best way to think about it is like you have a programmer's toolbox. It's full of these really simple but really effective tools. The real magic is just learning how to pick the right ones and fit them together to build something amazing.
And you know what the best part is? You've already got these tools. You've been learning them this whole time. We're not throwing anything new or scary at you today. We're just going to focus on how to become a master builder with the stuff you're already familiar with.
And here they are, your absolute core building blocks. You've got variables, which are just for holding on to information. You've got selection, which is your if and else statements for making decisions. Then there's iteration, your for and while loops for doing things over and over again. And of course, inputs and outputs, so your program can actually talk to the user. These four things are pretty much the foundation of everything you're going to build. Okay, let's get our hands dirty with the first example. We're going to see how to mix together inputs, functions, some decision-making, and even a loop to make a fun little interactive program, with a bit of a Monty Python flavor.
Whoa, okay. Now at first glance, this might look like a lot's going on, but don't panic. All this program really does is ask a couple of questions. It'll ask for a name, then a favorite color. And depending on what you answer, well, it either lets you pass or things get a little dramatic. The whole program really kicks off in just those last two lines.
All right, let's deconstruct this thing. First, we're getting input from the user. That's our input tool. Then, all the main action is bundled up inside a function called spam. The big decision happens with that if-else statement. That's our selection tool. And if you give the wrong answer, we fire up a while loop, our iteration tool, to repeat something. And finally, we tie it all together by calling the function at the very end. See? Just those simple tools all working together.
All right, so that was inputs and functions. Now let's check out another combination that is so powerful, you're going to use it all the time. And that's using a loop to process a list of data. This is a real cornerstone of programming.
And the code for this? It's actually beautifully simple. First, we've got a list, which is just a data structure called PyChars. Then we have our for loop. The really cool thing about a for loop is that it's designed to automatically visit every single item in that list, one after the other, until it gets to the end.
So what's actually happening when we run this? Well, the loop starts its journey right at the beginning of the list. It grabs that first item, the announcer, and prints it to the screen. Simple as that. Then, and this is the magic part, it automatically moves on to the next item in the list. No extra code from us. It just knows to grab Mr. Badger and print that out. And the process just keeps on rolling, one item at a time. The loop is just methodically marching its way through our cast of characters. You can totally see the pattern here, right? It's predictable, it's efficient, and it's doing exactly what we told it to. And finally, it prints that last item. Once it hits the end of the list, the loop knows its job is done, and it just stops. That's a brilliant example of how combining iteration, the loop, with a data structure, the list, lets you process a whole bunch of information with just a couple of lines of code. Okay, for our last big example, we're going to look at something that's absolutely crucial for making your programs feel, well, real. And that's interacting with external files. This is how your programs can save things, even after they've been turned off. So, just imagine we have a completely empty text file sitting on our computer. We'll call it ni.txt. Right now, it's just a blank canvas, totally ready for our program to write on. Now, pay close attention here because we're doing this in two distinct parts. In part one, we open the file in W mode. I want you to think of W for write as starting with a totally blank page. Then, in part two, we open that exact same file again, but this time in A mode. And A is for append, which is like adding a little note to the bottom of a letter you've already written. And what do we end up with? Check it out. That first block of code created the file and wrote the first line. Then the second block came along and just tacked ni right onto the end, without touching what was already there. This is a perfect example of combining two different file operations to build up the content step by step. So here's the absolute key takeaway, and it's a classic mistake people make in exams. W for write will wipe the file clean before it starts writing. It's destructive. But A for append just goes to the very end and adds new stuff. A great way to remember it. W is for wipe, A is for add.
Get that right and you'll save yourself so many headaches.
Okay, so we've looked at some pretty solid examples. But honestly, the specific code we wrote isn't as important as the mindset behind it. To really nail your exams and become a great programmer, you have to learn to think like a master builder.
And here it is. This is the main thing I want you to remember. Don't ever be intimidated by a big, complex-looking problem. The secret is that it's just a bunch of smaller, simpler problems in disguise. Your job is to break it down, figure out the individual steps you need to take. Then, for each little step, pick the right tool from your toolbox. Do I need to store data? That's a variable. Do I need to make a choice? That's an if statement. Then you just put them together in the right order to build your final solution.
So, as you keep practicing, try to stop thinking about commands in isolation. Start looking at every problem like it's a puzzle. You already have all the pieces you need. The only real question is, what problem will you solve by combining your tools? You've got this. Good luck!